Alright, so this is another video. This one's devoted to the lecture regarding idiomatic expressions. This is related to vocabulary, and for the NZ classes, this is found on page 65 of their book. That's over here. Okay, now this will be like a 40 to 45 minute activity, and the objective of this class is for students to be introduced to some expressions that would like them to use in their speaking test. Now, I'd like you to flash this slide over here. It should look something like this, okay? And basically, you start by saying that idioms are an excellent way to boost their score in vocabulary because it's native level vocabulary, and in reality these idioms are not so often used in non-English speaking countries because in many cases these words are spoken very natively by the locals themselves. So if the examinees therefore are able to pull off this kind of vocabulary, it will therefore boost their performance because it'll make their answers more colorful and interesting. However, please warn them that these idiomatic expressions are used only in speaking, so that when they use them in writing, it would appear too informal or too casual. So just leave this note that it's important that they use only these idiomatic expressions in the speaking component. Now, once you're done with this slide, you basically go back to the book and then you tell them that there will be a total of about 12 idiomatic expressions they will be learning today, and you direct them to page 65. Now, the drill here is composed of sentences, and basically you tell them that using the context clues that are used in each number, they find a match using the letters here at the bottom with their corresponding meaning. Now, if you want, there are a couple of ways you can do this actually. One possibility is to do this all together as a class, like you go one item at a time if you like. In the past, I've done this, and it's actually, it can be engaging because every after answer you give more examples. So for example, to be on the fence or to be of two minds is the same as being unable to decide between alternatives. Now, one way you can follow through on that is to provide more examples. Say, you could say that maybe when they woke up in the morning, say it's a Sunday, they were on the fence whether they have to uh, get up very early or just slip in, for example, or they might have in the past they were perhaps unsure whether they pursue a particular restaurant or another restaurant, for example. So whether they have to go alone to a particular event or be with some company, to wear this color of shirt or otherwise. So those are just simple illustrations when they are on the fence or when they are of two minds. Now, you can also solicit some examples from the group, like you can ask them, directing to a student, for example, you can ask him or her, in what other situations has he or she felt that he or she was on the fence? So that could be a good interaction or interactive activity. Now, you can do this for each of the idiomatic expressions over here. Or what you can do is you let them answer everything 1 to 10, and you give them some time to read through all of the items for about, say, 3 to 5 minutes maximum. And then after that, you answer all together. And then when you answer, you can apply that same technique or method of discussing the answers by way again of giving examples or more examples and soliciting some examples from the students themselves. Now, the answering part should last for about 10 to 15 minutes. Then after you've done that, after you've answered, say, the 10th item, by the way, the answer key will be provided again in the video overview. Please refer to that. Once you're done with the 10th item, you tell them that there will be more activities to help reinforce this particular vocabulary set. So you direct them to the slide, and basically you tell them that the first quiz is for them to supply the missing words. So you basically go through these one after another, and you get their answers correct if necessary. Emphasize that in the case of idiomatic expressions, they cannot change the words, especially the prepositions that come with these expressions, because they're idioms, and that's the very nature of idioms. You cannot change the words. Now, soon after that, you move on to quiz number 2. In this particular quiz, you tell them that you're going to flash some adjectives, and they have to tell you what phrase or what idiomatic expression they associate these adjectives with. So for example, rare, the answer for this one is hard to come by. If you're very angry, you see red, or you almost burst a blood vessel. If you are confused or uncertain, you are of two minds, or you are on the fence. If it's easy, it is a walk in the park. And number 5, if you're very happy, you are over the moon. And quite the opposite for miserable, you'll be down in the dumps. So that's quiz number 2. Now the third quiz uses, let me repeat that, sorry for that. In the third quiz, you tell them that you're going to flash some images, because images are an excellent way to help really reinforce those vocabulary of words and phrases they have just learned. And what you will be doing is you flash the image, about 10 of them, and that you ask them to tell you what idiom they associate, again, these images with. So for example, image number 1, see red, almost burst a blood vessel. Number 2 is on the fence. Now in the past, many students would write or say over the fence, so correct them. So this part can be a little fun actually, so it's really up to you how you can make this appear fun. This is an armchair critic, down in the dumps, over the moon, a walk in the park. Now, most students would get stumped by this image, but you can lead them by asking, pigs flying are hard to come by. Or you could say, or ask them, do you see pigs flying often? They would answer no, so therefore pigs that are flying are hard to come by. So just to guide them. 8 is 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. Now emphasize that for this particular phrase, this is a long phrase, they need to be able to use the phrase correctly and of course naturally. So the key here is repetition, so that when they use the phrase, it will come out naturally for them. 9 is on pins and needles, emphasize on the on. And for number 10, this is hard, or it's to come in handy, I'm sorry, to come in handy. Now, in the next set, what you will be doing is to repeat flashing those same images, but in a different order this time. Now, in the second set, however, you will be flashing the images much more quickly, and so you challenge them to respond a lot more quickly also as well. So, you do this all throughout. There will be 10 of this, so basically the same answers as earlier, only that these are arranged differently. Now, this part should last for about 30 minutes. Now, the last activity, this is the terminal output, and that is for them to be able to use these expressions themselves. Now, the challenge is for them to create some dialogue. Just a simple four-liner dialogue in which they will be able to use at least two of the expressions that they learned earlier. So challenge the students to think about a scenario or a situation, and they have to imagine that there are two people speaking in this dialogue, and each speaker only has two lines. Now, you can give an example. You can show the next slide for that so they have an idea about the kind of dialogue they can create, at the same time how short this dialogue is going to be. So you flash this dialogue. You can read for them if you wish, and then point out that there are here two idioms used, and that A, both A and B are able to use at least one expression, and that's the kind of dialogue they would have to create. Now, to be able to create this dialogue, they have to work in pairs. So if they are even, good. If they are not even, then maybe you as a teacher would have to volunteer being a partner of one of the students, because you need to be able to, or the students, I mean, need to be able to produce a dialogue for themselves. Now, the dialogue creation should last for about 5 to 10 minutes. Then after that, you let each pair share their work with the group and make comments, have fun with them, and leave the note, or as a way to end the discussion, leave a note to the students that idioms are an excellent way to boost their score in speaking, specifically in their lexical resource. So if they have the opportunity, therefore, they have to use these idioms. So that should basically sum up everything about these idioms, and altogether this should last a maximum of about 50 minutes. So 45-50 minutes should be enough for this particular input.